Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturient Society.
Welcome back, fellow writers, readers, lovers, and haters. That over there is Carissa Harlow, aka wow, I'm forgetting everything. I'm having like a hard time. Lewis, aka Catherine. I forgot. I usually go Catherine then Lewis, but Carissa's dark alter ego Catherine is with us as always, ever present. And then Lewis, her namesake that I named her after, and I am Ash O'Rourke, aka Tolkien. Though I do think that you're closer to the standard of Lewis than I am to the standard of Tolkien. I think about that a lot, but
I know we kind of swapped. Really, we should have done the opposite, but
it's too late
kind of
now.
it's just irony now, and that's even better.
it's definitely too late. Yeah. Anyways, well, how have you been? How's your week been? Sorry, by the way, I look like a floating head. I put my mic stand on the other side, and my green screen for some reason it's making it cut weird. I won't do it next time.
Yeah.
But
it's like you're a ghost. You're half there but half not, or something.
It's really weird. Like if I move over here some, there I'm a little bit more present,
a little more concrete.
Yeah.
I have been good this week. Speaking of our nicknames, I've been querying agents. And one of them was a big C.S. Lewis fan, or she had a quote from him. So I totally just went with it. And I said, like, on the Scripturient Society podcast that I host, and then in parentheses, like, where I am affectionately referred to as Lewis. I'm like, gosh, this is perfect.
That is perfect. So, I love that.
That was fun.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I've been sending out, I think, I went kind of overboard. I think I sent like 30 queries in the past couple days.
Heck yeah. God, I love that. I love going through those.
It's fun. And I think like a solid 7 or 8 of them, I'm just like, gosh, they would be perfect. Like I read their, manuscript wish list and all of the stuff that they say they enjoy. And I'm like, please see that is what I am, because I really think I am.
Yeah. That's always so hard. You're like, please, I promise you I'm what you're asking for, but I hope that my query letter communicates that to you.
Exactly. I don't want to be desperate. And so I'm like, don't over personalize it, right? So I'm like, don't go into weird detail about
like,
stuff.
Hey,
just kind of just casually say like, XYZ. So
yeah, it's like when you're trying to make a new friend. You don't want to like go too hard too soon. Just be like, true. I see you reading a book I've read before. It was pretty good. What do you think? Even if it's like your favorite book and you're like,
inside you're like, you are my new best friend. You don't know it yet, but this is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sent out a bunch. I've already gotten 2 rejections. So woo!
Heck yeah. Woo.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm feeling back and forth about it, as you do. So
yeah, that's true. I just realized I need to check back in and see like when was the 3-month mark from when I submitted my partial that was requested.
Oh yeah, you haven't gotten it back yet?
I haven't gotten it back yet. And usually, I mean, if they send a partial, you can usually email and be like, hey, any updates? If after it's been 3 months, like a little nudge.
Yeah.
Although every time that I've had to nudge someone, they've definitely turned it down. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. I need to check and see if it's nudge time, which to me usually signals death of my project time. But at least
like, I hope it's not time for that yet.
I hope not. Yeah.
And then, so this is kind of a weird story from TikTok. I posted a video. It was just like a fun, I don't know. It was fun to me. It was for grammar nerds, right? And I did this fun kind of video where I'm lying on my bed and I said, I bet you think I'm laying down, but I'm not, because I'm lying down, right? Because that's the correct form.
Yeah, nerd.
I know. I thought it was great. I had a lot of people that I'm like mutuals with like it. It did pretty well for like one of my videos. But then I try not to get too irrationally angry, because 2 people minimum so far have come into the comments and said, actually, both are correct. And I'm like, look, you're factually wrong. I don't know how to tell you that nicely, but you're wrong. And also, I have a degree in this. Why are you coming here and trying to correct me when I know more than you? Unless you have a master's or higher in English of some sort, I know more than you.
Get out of my comments.
I know.
Oh my God. And you really care to know exactly how to use it. Like they don't know how in-depth you've gone in this issue.
Exactly.
Flavors lie.
There's just so much to this. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's like, first of all, it's very frustrating when people try to correct you when you know more than them.
Yes.
And it's like, this is literally my area of expertise. And on TikTok, it's especially weird because, first of all, it's the internet. So you can't really tell what tone people are using. Like they could have been totally friendly about it, but I don't know, because I feel like they're correcting me and they're also wrong. So I assume it's coming from a malicious place, which it very much might not be.
It's probably just people who can't help playing devil's advocate, which by the way, that's annoying AF. I've never just to play devil's advocate. I'm like, don't. He doesn't need an advocate. How about you just keep
let
it on the
him
inside.
play his own game. So it's just frustrating too when I feel like people get confused about the target audience on TikTok, because like if you look at the hashtags that I put on this video, it's literally like writer talk and grammar nerd and stuff like that, and I feel like these people are definitely just not in those categories. So they see a video, it pops onto their FYP or something, and they kind of treat it as though they were the target audience. And then if they're like offended or whatever, because I feel like a lot of times if you correct grammar just generally, people that realize they've been doing it wrong get so offended. And I'm like, look, I'm not telling you that you need to be correct in the way you speak. Like if you don't care to learn the difference, that's fine. I don't care.
I don't.
I'm just telling you exactly. I'm not going to correct you. I'm not going to like get upset about it. But like, I'm just telling you, I care about this. I'm interested in it. And this is the correct way. And I don't like it when people feel the need to come into something that is objective and call it subjective just because they personally don't care about it.
Yeah. TikTok is absolutely the place where people do that consistently. Like you can't say an actual real life fact on TikTok without someone being like, actually, and you're like, no.
So I tried to like, but also, so I want to be like a nice person, right? And so I think a lot of times people will take advantage of that and they'll kind of like come at you with something thinking, oh, she'll never say anything back because she's too nice. But like, I really care about this. So I did comment back to both of them. What I hope was polite, but you never know because things can get taken weird. Or I essentially said, like, colloquially, yes, you can use laying down and people will know what you mean. But that does not change the fact that lying is the correct form, because lay and lie are two different verbs. And it's okay, people know what you mean when you get them mixed up, because basically everyone gets them mixed up sometimes. But I'm just saying that that's the correct form. And I don't understand, like, sometimes people try to debate me about stuff. This happened also when I did the protagonist versus antagonist. When we did that episode, I made a video about it. And I said something about how the protagonist is just the main character and the antagonist is whatever is coming against that. And someone said in the comments, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's the case all the time. And I'm like, that is literally the definition of protagonist.
Like, it is the case all the time.
Case all the time. And I don't want to be rude, but also like, I feel like people just get upset that when they realize that they've been doing things wrong, and like, it's okay to do it wrong. Like no one else knows or cares about the definitions of these things. It's okay. So I think people are just so used to talking about things in a certain way that they're like, well, I mean, I know when I'm talking about like protagonist or antagonist, like I know like what I'm saying is true and correct because your opinions about those things are subjective, but the definition of the word protagonist and antagonist and the definition of the words lay and lie are different, and so are their uses. But most people don't care. I know. And that's okay. Everyone can have their niche, right? If you don't care about grammar, that's fine. I do. I will take the reins on that. You care about math like if or you don't care,
then don't comment. You know, if it's not
why? That's it. And I know I shouldn't, but I just get so irrationally upset because it's like, I know normal people don't care about grammar, but why are you throwing that in my face? Just let me be with the grammar nerds for once. Like, we don't get together very often. Just let us have our videos.
You were not invited to this party. Oh my
God. So it was just frustrating, and I get anxious about stupid stuff. I know it's stupid, but I kind of had to just I had to play out the argument with this person as though they were real in my head before I could move on. And
that is so funny.
Yeah, so that was fun. But now I feel better, I guess. At least glad. I feel like I know more now. I could have the argument if I needed to. So
I know you could. You should just be those people. Like, just start being one of those people who they respond like with the new video, like to the comments. Like somebody commented this, and this is my response, because you definitely have like your fully formed response. Just go for it. Just go ahead and be confrontational. It's your page. They were the ones who popped up, and it's not even their area.
I know. It's just, and it's like, it's so hard because like they didn't do anything evil, but I feel like they did, and I know they didn't. But it's just so hard.
unless they reply and they're rude in their reply, because then I think you can totally do like a video replying to the comment. But it's possible, they're just like, no, I think I'm also right, and it's like you're not. But
it's okay. Like
It's
you're
okay,
free
yeah.
to do it wrong if you don't care to take the time to learn that. I don't
I know
take
I'm gonna
the
keep
time
doing it
to learn
wrong.
certain math and science concepts. Like they
No,
don't matter
but
to me.
I'm not
That's
going to
totally
correct
fine.
someone. I'm not going to correct someone on
Exactly.
lay versus lie either because I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not an expert
Yeah.
on it. I haven't
I
looked
know.
into it that much.
Gosh, it's not like I'm sitting here constantly correcting you, right? So it's
No.
not like I have a history of doing this to people.
It's so funny.
uh,
I
do
mean, I'm
sometimes
so
I get
amused.
criticisms of people are like, you shouldn't do this and you do this too much. And I'm like, I literally never do this. Why are people saying that one time I'm at
uh,
fault for this? It's just,
Hobby
it's just
does
a
that to
thing.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I am so
uh,
amused by your TikTok adventures and misadventures.
I care so much. I want people to care about grammar more than they do, but I also understand if they don't, because there are things I don't care about.
Yeah.
So we can all coexist and just stop
I know. You have a problem
horning in
with
on other
phony people.
people's.
Yeah, you have a problem with
Yes.
when someone like believe what you're going to believe, and even if you're wrong, stand by. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
very much your personality. So
Yep.
I can see how it's particularly annoying to you when someone who is like it's not even their area to be like
Mm-hmm.
adamant about, and you're like,
Yeah.
why? Why
Yeah.
did you pick
It's
this
just
topic?
I'm just so tempted to say things like you're objectively wrong, but I would be correct to say that, but it would be mean to say that. So I have
Yeah.
to go in between. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
I can't wait for like a really rude comment that you can just like truly roast
Go
someone
off
on because
on.
they deserved it. Yeah. It'll
Sometimes
happen.
I look out for that. I'm like, how wrong are the people that are being mean in the comments of this random video I've seen? Like,
Uh-huh.
can I?
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's too funny. That's
yep.
hysterical.
But yeah, I mean, that was really just the past 24 hours, maybe.
But it's
But
consumed your last 24
yeah,
hours.
nothing else matters past that. So oh, that's not true. Aurora had a birthday. It was
Oh,
her first
that's
birthday.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
little Bora. Oh my
She's a
goodness.
year old. It
I can't believe
feels
that.
I know. I mean, it hasn't been a year since we've had her, obviously, because
Yeah.
they have to get weaned and stuff. So we're
Yeah.
about 2 months away from that. Yeah, 8 weeks.
Yeah. But
Um,
it's still like, wow, in my head, I'm like, oh, they just got him a few months ago. And I'm like,
mhm,
no, it has been
so
almost
long
a year.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think I remember the date. I think it's the 8th or the 6th. That last year I was getting my wisdom teeth out. So that's where my kind of skill, like getting my wisdom teeth out and then getting the puppies, came like pretty close
Mhm.
together, and like everything in life changed after that.
Yeah.
Which,
Sounds about
you know,
right.
not
Yeah.
because of the wisdom teeth, but they kind of correlated. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we got Aurora some toys, and she got some scrambled eggs and some people food that she likes.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, and it was really funny. So they like chewing on bottles, like plastic bottles, right?
Yes.
And there are these like sleeves that you can get where they can like crunch at the bottle and chew it, but they can't actually like destroy the bottle or get
Mhm.
pieces off because it's in a case.
Yeah.
So they can hear the sound and everything.
Yeah.
And my dad, just like for fun, put like a full Coke bottle in it. You're supposed to do it empty, but he put a full
Yeah.
Coke bottle in just to see what would happen. Literally 1 second in, Aurora popped it and it exploded.
Oh my God. Why
And
would your
my dad
dad
and I
do
just
that?
looked at each other, and I was like, I was getting ready to take it away from her because I expected there to be a 5 second lag before something like that happened. But no, her teeth are so sharp, or she got it just right. And she looked
Oh
around
my
like,
God.
was that what I was supposed to do? Are you proud?
Oh my God. Oh, what a nightmare. That
Yeah,
sounds
but
horrible.
it was still fun. I mean, it was pretty easy to clean up and everything. So
Oh,
it was
thank
mostly
God.
funny,
That
but
is super funny.
it
Oh
was
my
fun. It's
goodness.
kind of
So
like
she had a
having like,
great birthday.
yeah, she was having the time of her life. She got a new football for outside.
Aw.
Um, but it's kind of like having kids around. Their birthdays are just so much more exciting. Like my
Yeah,
birthday
it's
comes and I'm
true.
like, whatever, but it's her birthday
Yeah.
and I'm like, here's a dog treat every hour.
I know because my birthday's this month and I was like, it's my golden birthday, like the day that you're born on
Yeah,
birthday.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So I'm like, ooh, I should do something special. And I was like, hey, Caleb, my brother, whose birthday is also in March, I was like, you want to have like a joint dinner at like a Brazilian steakhouse or something? Which is hysterical to me that I'm like, this is to me like a really big,
That's
big,
the big
big
deal.
deal now, Like when I was a kid and people would be like, oh, we're going to go to a restaurant for your mom's birthday or something, I'd be like, that's such a boring way to spend your birthday.
Stupid. We should go to a water park.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we should go do something fun. And now I'm like, no, honestly, eating a lot of meat and that cheesy bread they have, that sounds great. And I don't care. And I used to get so mad when people would like squish my brother's birthday and mine together, because my birthday was at the end of the month. So like they still always kind of celebrated something on his birthday, but then my birthday would just be a mashup birthday.
Right.
And we had another March birthday in the family too. So I was at the very end of the month and everyone was like done with birthdays anyways. So I used to be very resistant to merging birthdays because I was like, I will not, and I'm the middle child. So I've got middle child syndrome like hard. So I'm like, I am absolutely not sharing my birthday. Absolutely not doing that anymore. But now I'm like, meh.
It's fun.
Really I still want to do something like special for my golden birthday. But to be honest, I can't think of anything that doesn't sound like more effort than it's worth.
That's fair. My golden birthday was my 21st birthday. So I mean, that was just inherently a pretty fun one. It's a pretty big one. With. But
that's funny.
But yeah, so I was gonna ask you something. I had a follow-up question about your story.
Sorry. Which story? I've already forgotten. What did
I was just gonna say, normally for your birthday when we were in college, you got spring break. Right?
Yeah.
It was normally landed on spring break. And you were alone in the dorm because no one else was around.
I couldn't afford to go home if everyone else had gone home. But I do remember, and I still remember it as one of my best birthdays ever. I think I was turning 20. I was turning 19 or 20, I think, because I turned 21 like a month before we graduated. And I think it was the year before. So it was probably 20. And it was the best birthday of my whole life. Like I had the early shift at the library. So I woke up, put on my favorite jeans and my favorite heels. I went to work. I walked to the library. I had the early shift. I came back. I ate my favorite, like the off-brand, the marshmallow cereal, but the off-brand one. That's what I had. I had that. Sitting in our living room in the dark with the curtains drawn. The campus is dead quiet. And I just watched History Channel in the dark with my cereal. And I was like, this is the best birthday of my life.
That sounds amazing. Not gonna lie.
I was so happy. I was like, this is amazing.
And there's no one here to ruin it.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah. So this birthday, I'm like, maybe just like yummy food. I was even like, I could go to the same restaurant I went to last year. And I'm like, oh my God, Ash, so boring of me to be like, oh, I'll just do a redo. But the fish I had was really good. So, but the thing is, if I went back, I would literally go back and get the exact same thing. So I'm like, maybe
relive it.
Maybe I should just do that for like, maybe I'll do that again next year. Like we'll just
alternate it.
If it wasn't my golden birthday, maybe. Yeah.
Nice.
But so that's fun. What was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, you had a really big week with D&D. I didn't know if you wanted to tell everyone. We had D&D this week, finally. We took a break for a few weeks.
I can't tell if I went super in character or super out of character.
I think you were very in character.
Let's see, the fight with the cold thing. What was that called? That was first, right?
The cold light walker.
The cold light walker. I didn't kill it, but I did contribute to killing it. And I got to do the whole dodge from behind a rock and like swipe and then hide again. And that was fun.
It was very in character.
Yeah. And Dom, Ash's brother-in-law, made this like set. So like the players were actively moving, like you could move, not me because I wasn't physically there, but like people were moving
moved your character
to show where you were. Yeah. And it was just like you could see it playing out. It was really fun. And then our mission was to this princess had been kidnapped. So we had to we're in the town where the palace is, where this princess is probably being kept. Yeah. And Maddie, Ash's sister, and I were like the stealthy one. She can turn into a weasel and I'm a rogue gnome, so I'm tiny and I can sneak. Yeah. And we're just like, let's just sneak in and do some scoping things out. Like, let's just see. And we did so well. Maddie's like, I have all these skills. She's like, we could just go past the guards with this spell. And Ash is like, I guess. And then I'm like, okay, so roll for perception, which way to go? And Ash is like, left. So or right or whatever it was.
Yeah. Oh my God, they killed me because my sister, I leveled you guys up because I wanted you guys to get to enjoy your characters and get to actually level up. And so I leveled you guys up after your last fight with the Cold Light Walker because he's like a pretty big baddie. And then I guess it unlocked a bunch of skills for Maddie's character. And she was like, I can do this thing where basically I can go anywhere and no one perceives me. And I'm just gonna cast that on me and Twitch over here. And we're just, and you became, and then you rolled super crazy high for perception or something. And so I was gonna have you guys fight guards, and there was gonna be like danger and intrigue, and you guys just walk past all the guards. And then I was gonna make you guys at least like have to like search through all these rooms and maybe like get a chest or two or fight a monster or something. And then you guys just like rolled really high in perception, and I was like, you smell the thing at the end of the hall, do you have to turn right? Like, ruined it all.
We had to get, but there was like this door we had to get through. The princess is behind it, we think. And there are 2 guards. And I'm like, okay, so they can't see us, but I can pick the lock. And so then I pick the lock on the door, and the door swings open. And Ash is like, well, okay, they can see that the door is open. So now they're confused. And I'm like, great, can I like choke one out and just like knock him out? So I'm choking that one out. Maddie's doing something to the other guard. And then I tried to kill him because I'm not a good alignment. I'm not like neutral good or whatever they are. So I'm like, I can just kill him, but I missed. So I ended up not becoming a murderer.
Next time.
But at that point, like, the guard knew that someone had tried to kill him, so he's raising the alarm. So Maddie and I did like bar ourselves in the room, and we're like, the princess is there, and we're like shaking her awake. We're like, we have to go. And Maddie transformed into this eagle and carried us out the tower window. And then we get back to the rest of the group, and it's the wrong princess.
It was the wrong one. And also, I really need to stress here, these 2 went in for recon. They went in for recon, and they were like, we'll just rescue the princess.
Like, we're here, we've caused a ruckus accidentally. I guess we'll just try.
It was so funny. It was spectacular, though. It was basically the Twitch and Fern episode.
It was so pretty funny. Great. But I also, like, when we saw the princess, I was like, is this the real princess? But there was no time. I couldn't ask her questions because people were coming. I'm like, I guess we're rescuing whoever this chick is. So.
Yeah. And I mean, it was good. She needed to be rescued too, probably. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. She was also being held against her will, and she's gonna be helpful, but
probably
it was pretty fun. Everything just kept getting worse, and I'm like, okay, close the door. What do we do now?
Oh my god, it was funny because you guys were getting so cocky. You were just flying through, and then all of a sudden you like bit off more than you could chew, and all of the guards in the castle were gonna come down on you. It was awesome.
It was pretty great. It was much fun.
Yeah, it went down in the history of one of the best D&D campaigns. I was in shock. Everyone was in shock. You guys definitely decimated.
I know, and everyone else is like not there. Their characters are like at a tavern or something, so they're just listening
at a tavern, and they're just watching you guys do this like as players.
Yeah, and I'm like, sorry guys, I think we're rescuing the princess now. So,
oh my god,
that's happening.
It was funny. It was good.
It was great.
Yeah,
was
I mean, that was pretty much my story for my week. I don't really have any news anyways. I just wanted to hear you tell the D&D story because I thought it was a really good week for Twitch. So
it was. Twitch is doing really well. I kind of wish I was Twitch. But
you kind of are. So.
It's true. I did create her.
You did create her. And she does have some elements. Yeah, she has some elements that are very you. Like the very like strategic, like Ravenclaw type of you, and that edge of you, that Catherine edge of you, that could be really ruthless if it needed
that tried to kill the guard instead of choking him out.
Exactly. I feel like you're the one who wants to like get into a legitimate fight with these people in the comments about Laversly. It's that side of you.
That's so true. I also steal everything I need, so I don't think I've spent any money in this campaign so far. I've just stolen clothes and daggers and stuff. So
literally anytime anyone needs anything, she's like, I could just steal it. And everyone's like, we're just gonna buy it. And she's like,
I'm gonna steal mine.
Yeah, and she does. And
I think I've actually made money.
Time.
So I think I'm in that game. So
that's hysterical. Yeah. D&D rocks, you guys. If you have never played D&D, it's
would recommend.
Great. Yeah. 10 out of 10. Anyways, do you have any book recs?
I do. I finally have one. Now it is one I've mentioned before. It's the is it When or Where? Where Dreams Descend. By Janella Angelis, which I mentioned a lot of weeks back when I started reading it. I finally finished it. It didn't take me a long time because it was bad. It took me a long time because I was in a slump. So that it has no bearing on the book itself. And I'm so conflicted about it because it was really good. That doesn't sound like I would be conflicted about it, but it was really good. But there were so many typos. Yeah, it was crazy.
I hate that. That's so painful.
like, and when I say so many, I think it was like one per chapter or something like
What?
that. Yeah, and they were like, a lot of them were like confusing
Was this
typos.
a
Like,
self-published book?
no, which is, or I don't think so. It seems traditionally published, which is so
Wow.
strange. And it was like, it would be, so it's kind of, I guess it's kind of alternating perspective. It goes a little omniscient sometimes, but it'll be like in the girl's point of view, and then suddenly it will be referring to her, like it'll use the wrong pronoun. It'll say she, and I'm like, I know that we're referring to the guy, but suddenly like they added the S as a typo, so it became she,
Oh my
and like
gosh.
just like strange typos. I was like, who didn't look at this correctly?
Yeah,
Because
seriously.
the writing and the author and the story, excellent, 5 stars. The theme was a little heavy-handed, so I probably would have gotten it to 4 anyway, but I felt comfortable putting it at 4 because there were a lot of typos.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you don't care about that stuff, definitely recommend. Even if you do care about that stuff, it is jarring to have that many. Like it does, like I can forgive 1 a book and
Yeah.
maybe 2 if I'm liking it.
Yep.
But once you get above 3, I'm like, now I'm being taken out of it and it's hard to be immersed in it. So
100% agree.
yeah, that's kind of my like bare bones review, but it's so magical. It's a very it's kind of Caraval like. It's kind of, what's the book, Daughter of the Dusk City, something like that. It's very like carnival showmanship magic kind of
Very
illusion
much your
vibe.
aesthetic lately. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very fun, so I did like it a lot, and would recommend.
Nice.
So yeah, Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis.
Where Dreams Descend. It has a very magical Caravalli type title.
It is. And it's a very sparkly cover. It's like, I'm looking
Ooh,
at it on, it's on the floor
classy.
right now. Like it
Aw,
actually sparkles. Yeah, I don't want to lift it up for you,
that's
but
okay.
it's
You can send
sparkling.
me
You'll
a
have to take my
picture
word.
later.
Yes.
I believe you. It's sparkling.
Yes.
I also have a book rec this week.
Yay.
Sort of. This is just Ash's update of what she's reading for our sister podcast, That Pretentious Book Club. So this week we're gonna cover Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I've never had to say that name out loud, so I
I
don't
always say
know.
Salinger, but I don't
Salinger,
know
right?
either.
That sounds
Yeah.
right. I'll look
Yeah.
it up before we record tomorrow, and I have to say it and give a bio about the author. But yeah, so I read that for the first time. And let me say, if you're one of those people who, like me, you're like, I don't read classics because the language is so unnecessarily elevated. It's so wordy and hard to get through. Nope, not going to be a problem. Have you read Catcher in the Rye? Yeah.
It was a long time. I read it in high school. I was going to say you didn't have to read that for high school because
I did not.
But, yeah.
I had this kind of like happy miracle happen to me because I went to so many different schools. I ended up like skipping a bunch of classics that everybody else read.
Right.
Not like on purpose or anything, but I was like in college and people were talking about books and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, how did you not have to read it? And I'm like, I was lucky and I don't want to. So I'm happy that I didn't have to. Catcher in the Rye was good though. Definitely really easy to read. The opening dialectically, if that's a word, and even if not, I'm going to stick with it, reminded me, in the way it was applied, it reminded me of like Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
So because if you guys have read Huckleberry Finn, it's also another classic that's super easy to read because the language is just like so chill and down to earth. It's just it's super colloquial, super casual, extremely incorrect, but exactly how somebody would speak from that time. I think he's like a teenager in like the 1940s or something in Catcher in the Rye, something like that. The 30s or 40s, I don't know. So he talks like a teenager from then. And he drove me crazy also. I don't know. Here's the thing. I didn't love the book. Not because it wasn't well written. It was extremely well written. I didn't like the main character. I was like, what are you doing with your life, guy? And I didn't like the way he talked. He was so crass, and I don't appreciate that. I've never appreciated that. So I'm totally a snob in that way and always have been. But it was so well written, and I love colloquial narrators. I love that. That's part of why I love Mark Twain so much. So for that alone, I loved it, and very well written, but it's also like, I want to call it a coming of age story. It's not really a coming of age. It's like all of this takes place within like a week or something, and nothing that big, I don't think, really happens. It's more
kind
just
of like this snapshot within his coming of age.
Exactly. It's like a snapshot. Exactly. And it's not bad. It just, to me, felt like nothing all that important happened. I mean, I guess it probably in his life was important, but usually when you read like a classic book, you're expecting like something a little more earth-shattering.
Okay,
But
is this the book? Does he like hire a prostitute and then not use her or something
yes.
like that?
Yeah, he does
Okay.
that. Yep.
That's basically
Spoiler.
all I remember
But he
about this
does
book.
that, yeah. Yep, he does that. He makes bad decision after bad decision, and then he's like, why is my life like this? And I'm like, bro, like
So
I
true.
know you're 16, but like
Do you actually
I
need to
knew
know? Because
better
I
when I was
can
16.
tell you.
Yeah. Exactly. Chris is like, I would love nothing more than to tell you
Yeah.
you're wrong.
If you're serious and not understanding why things are going wrong for you, I do have answers.
Yeah, and then I think like his 10-year-old sister Phoebe basically tells him why, and he's like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, your 10-year-old sister
She's so
is telling
wise.
you what you're doing wrong. She probably was my favorite character. But anyway, so that's my sort of review, sort of recommendation for Catcher in the Rye. I did read it in a matter of hours, not even like rushing, because it reads so quickly. So definitely, if you guys have been avoiding it because you're intimidated by classics like I am, you don't need to be intimidated by it. You could read it in a few hours. You could definitely read it in a day, easy, like one sitting. It's fine. It's not bad at all. It's very much, it's not my genre to begin with. So I'm probably not like the person to like give it like a very unbiased recommendation. I like more explosions in my book. Or at least like some really like earth-shattering drama. And to me, this didn't have that. But if you like a coming of age or you like kind of like a snapshot of life type thing, then yeah, I highly recommend it for you because it was a great example of that. So that's my sort of book rec.
Did you ever have to read The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton?
I didn't. And
oh
actually,
my gosh,
that's one that
so
I do want to read. And
you,
I wish I had read.
I always kind of equate Catcher in the Rye and The Outsiders in my mind, but in the sense that The Outsiders is like significantly my favorite out of the two. It's just like, I don't know, just so much more up my alley, and I think it's probably more up your alley too. So you should definitely read that one. It's good.
I've said things a few times. I don't even remember what the people have been like, oh, that sounds like something from The Outsiders. So because people have brought it out to me numerous times, I have this impression that like maybe I would like The Outsiders. I might not at all. I don't know. But apparently I have occasionally reminded people of something in that book. And I don't know what that means because I haven't read that book. So I need to.
There's a character in this book whose name, this isn't even a spoiler, his name is Pony Boy. That is his name.
Oh, yes, I knew that. I knew
so
that.
all of the boys, I think we read it in middle school, and there's a line that says, stay golden, Pony Boy.
Yes.
So all of the boys just said it to each other, like the end of the year came, and they're like, stay golden, Pony Boy, and they wrote it in each other's yearbooks and stuff.
That's so funny. I did know that, and I've actually watched a few monologues from it because theater kids would sometimes pick monologues from The Outsiders to perform. So I have an idea of like the tone of the book, and that's about it. I mean, via the interpretation of some high school actors. So
I think it's probably pretty accurate. I just
isn't it about like a bunch of high schoolers?
Yeah, I mean, basically. I think the main character is more middle school age, but yes.
Oh wow, little. Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly, or he just seemed my own age when I read it in middle school. I don't remember, but
I'll have to add that to my list of reads. But yeah, so there's my book rec. Cool. What about our word of the week?
Our word of the week is Farrago. Farrago, Farrago, and it is a confused mixture or an assortment or medley or a jumble. I feel like I said that weird. Yeah, Farrago. So like a Farrago of fact and fiction about a person. That's the example that was on the internet.
A Farrago of amphibians, because it sounds like Farrago. Like it just
there you go.
Newts over here, a salamander over there, some froggy frogs, some Farragos over there.
It's not a bad example.
Thank you.
You could have like, like a lot of households have a junk drawer. So it's like a Farrago of knickknacks or something like that.
This is my Farrago drawer. Oh my God, I'm going to call it that from now
New
on.
name.
This is the Farrago drawer.
Everyone, if you're a writer, it's now called a Farrago drawer, not a junk
and
drawer.
it is the only accurate name for it. We're going to rebrand it across the world from now on. Exactly. It's the Farrago
This is our new mission. Bring the word Farrago to the junk drawer generation.
Whatever the last mission we gave you was, kick that one aside. This is the new one.
This is the
new
new
one.
What? I feel like junk drawers are solidly a middle class thing. Is that not true? Do
I have
do
no
poor or
idea.
rich
It
people
does.
have junk drawers?
I don't know. It feels like rich people have the luxury to have people keep things organized and nice for them.
Exactly. They just have so
And
much of things that they have their own place. But like if
yeah,
you're middle class, maybe poor, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
was middle class
We've
that you just
been
have.
we've been pretty poor before. We've always had a junk drawer. I would say we
Okay.
had more junk drawers the poorer that we have been,
Fair
which
enough.
I think is because honestly we're just too
It's a
busy. Everyone was working. We just
mhm.
there's no effort to make things nice. I think that maybe the idea of a single junk drawer is very
Yeah.
middle class because
Yeah,
like
that's what
you
I'm
have
talking about.
yeah, it's like a mixture of like you have like the luxury to like be somewhat organized, so you only have
Yeah,
like
it's just one
one drawer of
place.
junk.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's but there is, yeah, that's
Yeah.
hysterical.
You can tell what
Farrago
someone's
drawer.
like economic station in life is by do they have many junk drawers, a single junk drawer, or no junk
Or no
drawers?
junk drawers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. You guys, I want feedback on this. What do you think about this
Mm.
societal hypothesis? I think it could go places. Regardless, I am
We're
gonna
on to
refer to it
something.
as a Farrago drawer from now on.
Exactly. That
Yeah,
seems universally correct. So
it does.
that's the
Let's just
mission.
go with that one. Yeah. I agree. All right. Well, should
Yeah.
we get into our theme for this episode?
Yeah. So we are going to talk, don't tune out. It's not boring. We're going to talk about symbolism.
We're gonna make it fun.
We're going to make it fun, as we always do, right? Which is another nerdy thing I love.
Crickets.
I
Yeah.
know everyone's like tuning out now. I'm like, please stay, please hear me out. Um, yeah. So I feel like a lot of people get turned off from symbolism because of high school. And it is both high school's fault and high schoolers' fault because high schools sometimes make it boring, but high schoolers also don't put a lot of thought into it.
That was definitely
I was
me.
found it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
I put a
in
lot of
high
effort into
school.
it.
Oh, I for example, I like writers like Mark Twain. I liked the way that
Mhm.
Catcher in the Rye was written. I like when something means one thing. Like, I don't, now that after going to school, and largely thanks to Dr. Goodman, one of our professors in
Mhm.
college, who really taught me how to understand symbolism, even like the simplistic, like now I really value it. But
Mhm.
before that, I didn't at all.
It's
Because
true.
someone would be like, oh, what does the curtains were blue? What does the
Mhm.
blue symbolize? And I'd be like, it meant the curtains were blue. And I
They are
still
the
get
color
that way
blue.
sometimes. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I still do get that way because I think the turn off in high school is it can feel like your teachers are trying to make you see symbolism and things that don't
Aren't
really
symbolic.
or that aren't symbolic. And I do think that they do that in high school because I
Mhm.
think that when the teachers don't really understand symbolism, they don't teach symbolism correctly because I didn't feel like it had ever been taught to me accurately until Dr.
Yeah.
Goodman in college. So,
Yeah. I mean, symbolism is kind of a thing that doesn't really make sense to you until I think you know a lot more about it. So it's really
yeah,
hard to do a surface level like
yeah,
dive into
into
symbolism. It's hard to just
symbolism.
say, we're just going to make this a part of a class. Like you have to,
Yeah,
really go into it a
yeah,
lot of times.
exactly.
But
And
yeah,
I will
so
say for
oh,
me, sorry, I will really briefly say for me, if you guys are like me and this topic is terrifying to you, because it was to me for so long, the way that Dr. Goodman kind of helped me figure out the difference between is the curtain just the color blue and it doesn't symbolize anything, or does the color blue mean something symbolically, was that if it means something symbolically, if it has symbolic meaning, the color blue will appear in other areas throughout the book, and you could back up the argument based on the text in the book. Like you could take like quotes from the book and make an argument that
right.
this, color
You
means
could write an
something.
essay on it. You would have enough
Yeah,
material for that.
exactly. If you can't, it's a good chance it means nothing. If there's like a red flower, but red doesn't come up anywhere else in the book, like, or in
It
any
was just a red
significant
flower.
way, it was just a red flower. It's just a red flower. It's a flower that's red. It didn't mean anything.
Right.
So anyways, that's for me, that kind of helped me. But you probably understand this topic better than I do because you were a better student in high school. I'm willing to bet.
It's probably true. And I don't say that to brag. It's just that I was a total nerd from like childhood. So so I wrote down a definition of symbolism just because, just to clarify what we're talking about. So it is specifically to writing, right, is the use of images to represent ideas, emotions, states of mind, or themes indirectly in a piece of writing, which is kind of bouncing off what you said. the symbol can't just be like ambiguous. It does have to mean something. It has to represent something. So that's also something you can look at, is the blue door or the blue curtain or the blue whatever in a room where people are very sad or where something sad is about to happen. Is it foreshadowing? Maybe then it's a symbol or being used in some kind of way. But if it's not representative of an emotion, if you can't attach it to a specific idea, then it's probably not symbolism.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be floating out there as like, oh, look, a symbol to put in my high school essay or whatever. It's going to have a meaning behind it. And then I also think, I know this is already getting kind of off topic, but like the difference between symbolism or symbols and motifs was always really confusing to me. But this is what I found. So there's symbols, and then motifs are repeated symbols. So I think if we look at like Harry Potter, we can like understand things a little better. So the lightning scar, right, is a symbol. And how, like you said, it's going to show up multiple times in the work if it is truly a symbol. Like Harry's scar comes up multiple times. It's mentioned often. It's always with him, right? It comes up, like things are related to his scar, but you don't see lightning bolts everywhere. It's not like that's a symbol for a house or a symbol for a town or anything like that. It's just for Harry, right? And it's a symbol of like whatever you want to say it is, his near death and his survival and his chosen one status, whatever. But it does exist as a symbol. Snakes might be a motif in Harry Potter because it's not only Voldemort's symbol, it's also Slytherin's symbol, and they're actually like Nagini is there, and then there's the snake that like I think it's Draco, right, shoots out at him at the duel, and the Chamber of Secrets
Harry
monster
accidentally releases. There's a lot of snakes.
Exactly. So that could be considered a motif because all of the different snakes that are showing up are different and they're coming in a lot of different forms. So I mean, I don't know if that helps anyone. I don't know if it matters to anyone, but I think that's kind of the difference to understand symbolism versus motifs. And I think as a writer, you want to be a little conscious of the symbols that you are putting in your book and maybe what is a symbol versus a motif, because you don't want to be planting things that are kind of confusing, right? You don't want to have like blue doors around, but then they mean nothing, because that's going to confuse people. They're going to think it means more than it does. And for the people that dig deep, that's going to get confusing for them and feel kind of unfair.
Very unsatisfying. Yeah,
exactly. They're going to say like, there's something about these blue doors. But if you're just like, I just like blue doors, like there's not going to be anything there. And they're going to, like you said, feel unsatisfied with that. So you want to either not mention the color of the doors or give some kind of meaning to the blue doors. So I think like another good example of a symbol is in Lord of the Flies, which I think it does symbolism really well. I really love it. And that's like the conch shell. So like the conch shell is like this symbol of power and like authority on the island, and like when the conch shell is destroyed, that's when things really go to hell, right? And it's the same conch shell throughout, right? It's not a motif. It's not like there are a bunch of shells representing a bunch of different things. It's just this one conch. And the thing that always strikes me about Lord of the Flies is how much people remember this symbol. And I think that's kind of what you should be going for in the symbol that you choose. It needs to be something memorable enough that when people have kind of put the book down and they've been apart from it for a couple of years, they still remember that symbol, and it brings back the theme for them. It brings back the idea. And that's really why symbols are really useful, because if you read 100 books a year, even if you read like 12 books a year or even less, as time goes on, you forget specifics. But you can remember symbols because they are symbols, because they are images, because they're concrete. And you can associate the themes and the storyline and the things that you loved about that book with that symbol. And so a conch shell comes to mind and you suddenly remember more about Lord of the Flies than you would have remembered if there hadn't been a symbol at all. So that's why I kind of think symbols are important and why you should put them like consciously in. It's also kind of fun because you can just like come up with a symbol that doesn't mean anything and give it meaning. Like the conch shell, like shells don't mean anything. At least they don't usually mean power and authority, but they do in that book, and it takes on a new meaning, which is cool. So
I think if you think of a symbol from your book and you could put it on the cover of your book, just like that one symbol, and like that could be it. I think that that's a good way of doing it. It's a symbol versus a motif, because like a motif, like you could put like a lightning bolt on the front of a Harry Potter book, right? And it would be like really hugely evocative. If you put like a snake on it, the message is going to get a little lost in there, because there's a lot of snakes in Harry Potter, and the snakes are definitely a motif, and yeah, they definitely mean something, and you could write like a bunch of essays on that, but they're not a symbol, like a one recognizable symbol like the conch.
Right.
You could put the conch shell on the cover of a Lord of the Flies book and like
Exactly.
which is a very, very interesting and fun. And actually, I do really like that for cover designs when they just
I do
pick like
too.
one symbol from a book and put it on the front. Like, I think that's delightful. It's very clear and I like it. You don't
I
have
know,
to
it's
guess
very,
what the symbol is.
yeah, it's like simple enough. Again, it's memorable enough, and you feel like you're getting kind of an ambiguous but still clear idea of what the book is about, because you read the book and you're like, oh, okay, I get what that symbol on the cover is.
Yeah.
Which is also really satisfying. You feel like you've discovered something, even though it's like done
Even though
on
it was there.
purpose.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think symbols and motifs both, I think that they're really useful in books for like they really deepen your content. Like they really they add a layer of depth to the book that might not have been there before. So
Yeah.
if you're trying to like communicate some important theme in your book, and it's a fiction book, then symbols and motifs are a great way to really like hammer that point home without going on a soapbox like for with one of your characters or something, because we've talked about that many times. Just do not soapbox with your characters. It's not the way to get across your theme, no matter how important that you think it is. Symbols and motifs are a great way to do that. Also for foreshadowing, if you're ever like, oh, I have a hard time foreshadowing, guess what? Take a symbol or take a motif rather that means something important to you that you choose to attach meaning to. Like maybe, I'm trying to think, what's a good one? Maybe there's like a dagger that plays an important part in this, like a dagger with like a flower handle. We'll just say that because I saw a cool picture of a dagger that had like flowers in the handle earlier today.
Right.
And maybe this like special magical dagger plays a really important role in like the climactic scene. So then maybe you have flowers crop up whenever like this other character that's going to be involved in that scene is around, so then you're dropping hints, you're foreshadowing. So that, I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot of ways you can do that. So if you struggle with foreshadowing, or if you feel like you want to make sure that you've really like represented your theme as much as possible, but you don't want a soapbox about it, also hugely important. And also just kind of fun. It kind of feels like dropping Easter eggs in.
It does. It's kind of symbols are both surface level and deep, right? So if someone is reading the book, I just want to have fun, I just want a good story, the symbol will satisfy on that level, because
100%.
it's still an image that they're going to remember. They're probably going to find it a cool symbol. But then for the readers that are saying, I want to learn from this, I want to dig deep, there's even more for them there, and symbols can work on both those levels, which is super great. Another example that came to mind when you were talking was the series of unfortunate events, the eye and the fire, and like several others I think have come up in that series, where in book one they like see these things kind of foreshadowed and kind of cropping up early on that then come into play later. And I mean, Lemony Snicket slash David Daniel Handler, whatever his real name is, does a great job at that.
Yeah.
So those are also a great example of how to use symbolism for foreshadowing and for, I mean, just symbolism itself. What else did you say? You said foreshadowing and
foreshadowing and theme.
And theme. Thank
theme.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I think motifs also can be really good for, while they also kind of do both of those things, they can also set the tone of the book in a really interesting way. Like, I mean, if you look at Harry Potter and like the fact that snakes are a recurring motif, like snakes aren't always exactly what they seem. They could be suspicious. Like they're not inherently bad, but they're often associated with bad things. And that is like a heavy theme that goes on in the book. But even aside from thematically, like there is kind of like a snaky type, like serpentine kind of energy, it feels like, in like the conflict throughout the books. I mean, Voldemort is very snake-like himself, the main antagonist in the series. So I think the snakes is a recurring motif. So that's like a really interesting atmosphere and a really interesting tone for the book and the whole series. So that's something to think about too. Like if you have, for example, in this imaginary book I'm writing where there's apparently some important scene that happens with a dagger and that has a handle made from flowers. I know this sounds insane, you guys. It was like an acrylic filled handle with flowers in it. And I was like, oh, it's so
Sounds
cool.
Great.
But that like the idea of like something as like soft and beautiful and innocent as flowers paired with something as lethal as a dagger, that makes for a really interesting, first of all, you can say a lot of really interesting things thematically with that concept, but also just the tone that it sets is very unique and interesting. Like books like Caraval or books that are like that dream one that you were talking about that are very like kind of magical and fantastic are just going to have reoccurring motifs, like maybe masks, maybe, you know, glitter, maybe, you know, other things that basically call forth these images and this feeling and that set this tone. And so that's in really, if you're also like, oh, my book kind of feels drab, maybe a little lifeless, maybe you're just missing a more defined tone for your book. So picking a motif that has something important to do with what you have to say, not a bad idea, and can give it, again, more depth.
Yeah. And thinking about like things like Caraval or anything kind of carnival or masquerade themed, a lot of times you can use just a couple symbols and the environment or the atmosphere just kind of come to the reader. So you don't have to spend as much time explaining or describing things that are going on, because the second you say it's a carnival or it's a fair or it has masks or whatever, people already have strong associations, and they're probably very personal, but still all very similar. And so it can create a world in the reader's head that is close to what you're imagining, but also unique to them. And like I said, you don't have to, I don't want to call it waste of space, because it's not a waste of space, but you don't have to spend as much time on describing things, on trying to set the tone, because the symbols are doing a lot of that work for you, because we have those associations already.
I agree. I think the Night Circus does a really good job of that too. They do this a lot with the colors black and white specifically. Black and white are like this like big reoccurring motif as colors. And like the whole idea is like the circus, all the tents are black and white striped, but not just, I mean, but that's not the only place in the book where those colors occur. And so you kind of get this like, it really just sets the tone for the book in a really interesting way. That's definitely one of the recurring motifs in that. But I think that the Night Circus is a great example where the recurring motifs and the symbols that author chose, I think, really set the tone in an interesting way too, and really build the world out in a way where she didn't have to describe like every little thing about the world for you to get like a pretty good sense of the atmosphere.
Yeah, you're already assuming a lot just when she starts with those symbols. Yeah. I think it's also important. I mean, this is debatable, I guess, but I think there is a certain importance to finding a unique symbol as opposed to something too recognizable. So, like I said, if you want to set the tone or the atmosphere with something that is familiar, you know, with like a carnival scene, picking a mask or picking a circus tent as some kind of symbol is a good call, because it creates a lot of familiar memories already.
Don't pick snakes. Don't pick roses. Don't pick crowns.
Gosh, the roses.
Too much. I know.
Stop with the roses. It's just they mean too many things now.
It's true. And stop with the crowns that have other like elements involved in that. That's no more. We've had too many crowns. We're done with that. And I just think snakes have become, the whole ampersand snake thing just became such a trend. And I liked it with Serpent and Dove. And that was a title that made a lot of thematic sense for the book, and I can accept it, that they chose a serpent and a dove. But
once you use it for a really good example, anyone coming after that with a similar symbol just looks like they're copying.
It's true.
And I understand that something like roses, like obviously whatever, everyone's probably gonna have something that comes to mind, like Beauty and the Beast comes to mind in particular for me, but maybe A Court of Thorns and Roses does, and I know that's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, so maybe it worked there. But then there are a ton of other books with roses,
and the same with crowns. I mean, there's a crown I feel like every other fantasy book cover, and it's like there's no way that this is that symbolically important to each of these books.
I mean, pick a different flower, or pick like the scepter thing instead of a crown or something, you know? Because people, when there are too many works out there or whatever with the same symbol, then people get confused about what they mean. And I mean, roses mostly mean something sort of similar. You have like the beautiful flower and then the thorn, right? But it still can get, it can make it too easy to lean on really traditional, tired, already done themes and messages. But then it can also like confuse readers in the sense that it's not going to stick out to them. It's not going to feel unique. And so it's ultimately not going to serve its purpose. So
it's true. I mean, I think sometimes picking I think also writers, even who don't understand symbolism or motifs, write with them anyways, just inherently. So, I mean, look for the existing ones in your book and maybe like think about if you had to pick one symbol, one icon to put on the front of your book to draw people in, what would you pick? Like maybe you have a character who is actually like this is about their rise to power and they're going to become a king or queen or something. Maybe they were, you know, a lost princess or whatever. But is a crown really the most representative of their journey? Or is there
Right.
something else? Were they kidnapped while they were out picking flowers and they had a basket with them? Do you put a basket on the front of the book? Like,
Right.
there's so many opportunities to do something new and fresh symbolically. I think that you just need to think about what part of the character's journey meant the most to them and to their development, and maybe look for like recognizable symbols that happened in that area.
Mm-hmm. You can also take it, like, you don't have to go with an existing association with a symbol, right? Like, you can take a thing and give it new meaning
Yeah.
in your book, depending on, maybe there's a character that really loves it. Maybe there's a character that really hates it, and so it becomes a symbol for something like that. Um, I'm thinking now about like the Marissa Meyer Lunar Chronicles covers
Uh-huh.
and how they have symbols on them. Obviously, these
Yeah.
are fairy tale retelling, so they come from fairy tales. But
Yeah.
the idea of a shoe being symbolic of Cinderella's
Mm-hmm.
journey, that's so much more unique than a crown.
Yes,
And
it is.
it looks cool on a cover, and it also
Mm-hmm.
has like the throwback to the fairy tale, and then it has its
Yeah.
own
I
meaning
love
in the
all of
book.
those covers. Yeah.
Yes, and
They're
like
so good.
Rapunzel's braid, right? The idea of a
Mm-hmm.
hairstyle being a symbol, that can be a thing.
Yep.
I feel like potentially that was a thing with Game of Thrones, but now I can't really remember. But hair did used to symbolize a lot of things. Like, if your hair was down, it meant you were single, and if it was up, it meant you were married in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cultures,
Yep.
or vice versa, or the way that you did it specifically. Hairstyles can be a symbol.
It's true.
Obviously Snow White has the apple. I'm literally just going through the covers. Red Riding Hood has the cape. You can have an article of clothing.
Yep.
If you have something more contemporary, you could even do like headphones or something technology based if your character is really into that. Maybe your character's a
Mm-hmm.
podcaster, so the headphones are a good symbol
Yeah.
for that. Or a
Exactly.
microphone or something like that. But you can also give it new, fresh meaning in your story. Maybe it's representative of the journey they go on. Maybe it's representative of who they were before versus after. Maybe it's representative of like a traitor in their midst, or something big that's going to happen, a big
Mm-hmm.
event that's going to change things. You can really play with it a lot, and that's why I think they're so fun, because symbols can come from a lot of different places and represent a lot of different things.
Yeah.
When you were saying like think about the symbol that you would put on your front cover, also be aware of spoilers. And obviously, unless you're going indie, you're not
Yeah.
going to design your own cover, but like, don't put a
No.
spoiler on your cover. I mean,
No,
you could put a
no.
subtle spoiler on your cover, like it's one of
Mm-hmm.
many details.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about the symbol that would work for one of my books, and like, I would never put that on the cover
And
because
you're
it would
like, it would
spoil
be a spoiler.
everything. But I can mention, and I try to do this where I mention it throughout the
Mm-hmm.
book, and it kind of becomes a symbol, so that if you're picking up on it, you're sort of like, I think I know where the object is that she's looking for.
Yeah.
Because it's been hinted at. Hopefully, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that I do that well. But it also doesn't have to be like related to some big final conflict. It can be something from the beginning, like Little Red Riding Hood's cape. So
Yeah.
there are just so many avenues for symbols.
Yeah. It's true.
And that's also why I love it. Also why it's hard to talk about symbolism, because there are so many variations on it. And so you can
Yeah.
say, well, a symbol is representative of this, but then maybe not always.
Yeah.
So I mean,
There's
it's very broad.
Yeah, I think there's not really a wrong way to do symbolism. I think you
You
probably are
just need to
already
repeat it
using it.
at least a
Yeah,
couple
just
times.
repeat it. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it to have the most impact, repeat it with intentionality. And we say that
Mm-hmm.
pretty much all the time. Like, do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you were already doing, but do all of it with like intentionality, and that'll give a lot of power and depth to your writing. So you're probably already using symbols. If you're not, you can definitely incorporate them more intentionally. But if they're already in there, when you go back and you edit intentionally, look for the symbols that you've already included intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe like move them around or use more of them, use them for foreshadowing, like use them for a purpose. You probably are already doing it to some degree. So it's just about getting serious about what you're doing and recognizing what your motifs are, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would also recommend letting yourself like choose the symbol that comes naturally instead of trying to shoehorn something into the
Yep.
story that doesn't work.
Yep.
So I'm not going to give too much detail, but in my NaNoWriMo project that I did last year, I was trying so hard to make like a knot a symbol, like like a ship knot or something like that,
Yeah.
because I thought it would look cool, and because I did a lot of research on knots to try to find the right one. And I was like, oh, I'll just incorporate it into the architecture of the city and like all this kind of stuff. And I just eventually got to this point where I was trying to force it, where it was
Yeah.
no longer feeling natural. And
Yep.
there
I've
was this
definitely been
other
there.
symbol that had kind of been in the background the whole time. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the symbol I need to go with because it's been there not supernaturally, very naturally
Yeah.
from the beginning. I wasn't even really thinking about it as a symbol. It was kind of like a plot hole fix, but then of course it's there to fix plot holes, so it's coming up a lot.
Yeah.
And I figured out, okay, I can just amplify that. I can just make that bigger from the start it earlier and bring it throughout the whole story. So I had to do away with the not thing. And it's okay, like write it down in your not diary, in your journal or files or whatever you have, and you can use it for another story where it comes up naturally. But you don't want to be forcing a symbol. I mean, the conch shell in Lord of the Flies is so natural because of course it's a beach. They find a shell. The lightning scar, it's unique, but it is reasonable that you could get injured in that kind of a shape, like a jagged sort of shape. So they feel very natural to the story. The eye in Series of Unfortunate Events, like people have eyes. I don't know. It's an easy shape to mimic or to accidentally see a lot of places. So you just want to make sure that you're not trying to force something. And also that you're not overdoing it with too many symbols. You want them to be memorable. You want them to be the symbol of the book so that when people think of that object or item, they remember how the book made them feel. They remember the theme. They remember all of the thoughts that it provoked. And if you're giving them too many symbols, it's just going to be confusing. And also you leave more room to accidentally overlap with another book's theme that will get disorienting for the reader. So
yeah, it's definitely true. I agree. It's all about being intentional, making intentional choices.
Yep. Do you think there's like a certain number of symbols? I was thinking about this for a single book. I wouldn't go with more than 3.
I kind of agree. Yeah, I feel like 3 is a good amount. I feel like more than 3 is too many. You could do less than 3. I think anywhere from 1 to 3 is good.
Exactly.
For a
Depends on the
recurring
genre
motif,
and everything.
Yeah, for a recurring motif in the same book, I feel like
I would go with 1.
1 for a reoccurring, like it can
2.
reoccur once. I feel like
well, I was just thinking about the type of motif. Like if you're gonna go with snakes, go with only snakes.
Yeah, no, go with one type of motif. But I think the occurrence, like the number of times the motif can occur, you have a lot more flexibility. You could definitely do that a lot more in your book and in your series. Don't like do it like every chapter, but you could do it like every few chapters probably if you're subtle. The more subtle you are, the more you can include. If you're not being very subtle, include fewer of them. But yeah, I agree. Pick one motif, at least one motif per book. And then you can have like a motif per series that you carry out. And then maybe each book has like its own kind of motif. So, I mean, we talk about that a lot too. So it depends if you're writing for a full series or what you're doing.
Definitely. If think about it like your story arc, right? You want the book arc and then you want the series arc. So for every book, there needs to be probably at least one symbol. But then you also want a symbol to carry throughout. And then you also want potentially one motif. You don't need a motif per book, but I would argue you probably need a motif for a series to draw everything together to make it feel natural and coherent and everything.
I agree. You definitely don't need one per book. I think you could do it per book.
Right.
Like
if you wanted.
You could do one per book if you wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it is necessary for a full series though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think having one symbol for the whole series that's like most prominent and doing like a symbol per book at least is a good idea. I mean, you could do like 1 to 3 for sure. But I do think it's interesting to have like a specific symbol for each book. I feel like the Percy Jackson series really did that. Like the first one, it's Percy Jackson, the Olympians, the lightning thief. So the lightning bolt also is like a pretty big symbol.
It works because they mean different things.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Also because the market wasn't saturated in lightning bolts at the time. So
no, it wasn't. Like it's now saturated in snakes, and it wasn't saturated in snake motifs when Harry Potter came out. So that's not really it wasn't really a concern. And then I think like every book there's like you could easily pick a different symbol because they're like
I'm thinking like the covers, like the labyrinth, or like with the Sea of Monsters, is it the fleece, or maybe the Cyclops? I think is on the new covers. There's something there in quest stories. They're looking for things.
The object of the quest is a great symbol. You can just
it does kind of become an automatic symbol.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Quest stories, you kind of have that a little easier.
Which is nice. Maybe think about your story. If it were a quest, what would the object of the quest be? And if it doesn't give anything away, then it could be like front cover material. If it gives something away, it can still be a symbol. Obviously, just don't put it on your cover. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah. So I was going to say one more thing. Let me think for a second. Something about.
No, Ruby.
Oh,
sorry.
It's okay. I think I was just going to say that if you're working with a series, it's a good idea to have, I don't know if I want to say fewer symbols, but I kind of want to say fewer symbols because you want all of the books to feel like they go together. And so you might want the symbols to be related or at least hinted at in book one. I mean, it's hard. Book ones are usually shorter and you have to be a little more action oriented to keep readers' attention and everything. But slipping in the first instance of a symbol that's going to come up in book 3 could potentially be a good idea if you're doing it, like we said, intentionally and you're not overdoing it too much. But I mean, like with Harry Potter, I think snakes are like the motif that's throughout. The lightning bolt is a symbol throughout as well because Harry continues to have the scar and it's how things kind of start and end. And so there are a lot of symbols in Harry Potter, of course, because the more you write, the more natural symbols come out. But maybe focus on one symbol and one motif throughout so that there is this cohesive kind of element going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, Ruby's throwing a fit back here. She's like, I don't want to talk about symbols.
I don't understand, but most people do.
She's chewing her foot right now. She's really looking extremely intelligent. She's chewing her back foot. So
how cute.
Oh, kind of, I guess so. Anyways, is there anything else you want to say about symbols, motifs, all that good stuff?
I think I was just going to add that, like we were talking about theme and how symbols can be a good illustration of your theme. I think you can write in whatever order you want, but if you go into your book before you even write the first draft with an idea of a symbol, I think it can help you kind of clarify as you write. Again, you can do this later on. It's where do you want to do the work up front or on editing and stuff like that. But the more consistent you are with using a symbol and the more intentional you are about it, I think your theme actually becomes more concrete in your own head. So it's a tool for readers for sure to understand what you're trying to say, but it's also a tool for you during the writing process to know what it is you're trying to say, because a lot of times themes can feel very I feel like I've used the word ambiguous a lot, and that's not even what I'm trying to say. Kind of ethereal or like hard to put into words. Like in our episode on themes versus topics, we talked about how themes are specific takes on topics, not the topic itself. And if you have that symbol to kind of tie your theme into, I think it can make it feel more concrete for you as the writer so that you have a better grasp on what you're communicating and how to do it best. Does that make sense?
No, I totally agree. I think also if you are struggling with like a direction for your book, plotting wise or writing it, picking like a symbol that has something to do with the like overall direction of your story or where you want your character to end up, even if it's just a symbol that's just for you, that just gives you direction. I think that's a great idea.
Because symbols are concrete. Ideas and states of mind and emotions are very, I know there's a word for it. It's like the things that are around your head but aren't.
Ethereal. I don't know.
That's the word that's coming to mind, and I don't know if that's what I'm trying to say, but the things that are a little more difficult to describe because they're not concrete, that's what themes tend to be. And so the symbol puts it in a concrete form so that it's easier to deal with. And that is really what the book is supposed to do in general, but the symbol can make it even easier, make it even more concrete for the readers and for you as the writer.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if you haven't picked a symbol, look in your book if you've already written it for a prominent one. And if you're still writing it, pick one. Because it's fun. If nothing else, like it really is fun. So I need to do that.
And you can
more.
like brainstorm covers and, think about that.
Ruby is being horrible. Don't stop it, Ruby. She's being so bad. It's okay. I'll cut all of her barky barks out because she's the worst. Ruby, I love you, but shut up. Thank you. No. Bad. Ruby, stop. Sit. You have been in here for like an hour. You're going to be just fine. You literally went out right before this. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. Stay. Wait. Good girl. Be a good girl. Anyways.
Like appearing and disappearing from the screen.
I know, because every time I turn away, the green screen doesn't know I'm here anymore for some reason. I'm gonna have like super Ruby, you're so intrusive. You're such an interruption. Oh my goodness. So anything else you want to say about Symbol?
Um, no, I think that was it. Hopefully that added some clarity and or interest to the topic for some of you. I find it
Sweet.
fun. I just think it's fun to pick symbols and to like analyze them. So
I mean, it did for me. I'm definitely more
good.
interested than I was before.
Good.
Because I
I
haven't thought
mean,
about it
I
that much.
succeeded then. It only matters
Yeah.
if Ash gets what I'm saying. So
Really, I'm your key audience. I'm the one who's here to learn. I do always
Ash is the
feel like
target
that.
audience of this podcast.
Yeah, that's me. Anyways, do you have any writing updates you want to share?
Let's see. I don't remember what I told everyone last week. I mean, I finished the second edit or first edit, second draft of the book I was working on before, and now it's in resting phase. I already told Ash I wrote like a query letter summary version for it because it was in my head and it's nowhere near ready to query, but I have it for when, I mean, I have a rough version of all of the books I've ever written. I think this might be the most easily marketable. Which is disappointing because it still needs a lot of work, so I can't query it yet, but it like there's so many directions I could go and so many different elements that I could just focus on, like depending on the agent or depending on the publisher or the target audience or whatever. It's just fun. So I mean, it's a little overwhelming, but also I feel like options are good. So that's fun. I made some aesthetics with like Canva and images off the internet, and that was really fun, and I'm very proud of them. It's kind of a pinkish vibe.
I saw. It's very nice.
I did send to Ash.
It's a very nice aesthetic.
I don't know. I love castles and daggers and masks and all the things that I put into it, so it was fun. And then because I am an absolute mess and slightly insane, I started writing another book.
Carissa! Oh my God, you're out of control.
I don't know what I'm doing. So the thing about this book is that I'm pretty sure I can pull it off in 60,000 words, which is so far below my normal, and it's still a YA fantasy and it still takes place in the same world. But it takes place in like the normal worlds. Like, not in the magical country I created because it's like a portal thing. So the real world exists, but so does the magical place. So this would take place in the real world where magical people sometimes exist. And it would be a boarding school, which is just super fun.
I love a boarding school.
So
that's awesome.
I'm excited about that too. And there's a lot of stuff. It's an idea that I had. I think I was literally 11. And it was one of the original, like, really good ideas I had for a book. But just the nature of the premise, it's like so easily solved, right? Like there's this big conflict and then you're like, oh no, what are they going to do? And you're like, well, there's a really easy answer here. So I got stumped and I never came back to it. But now that I have like this magical universe that I created really worked out and really fleshed out, and I know all this stuff about it, I can create some complexity to the conflict. And it just kind of popped into my head that like, ooh, maybe I can bring this idea back and actually do something with it. So I'm excited about that. I'm not committed to finishing it in the same way I usually am when I start a book. But it's in the works. So that's fun. I have like 10 pages done. So
nice. Ooh la la. I like that. I'm so happy for you. I love starting a new book. That's so nice. So especially if it was an old idea that you're like coming back to.
Yeah. So I just have some initial ideas I think I need to get out. Maybe I'll finish it, but maybe I won't. So I will update you as things go on. But
awesome. I will depend upon you to do that. If it sounds like I'm far away from the microphone, it's because I got this new just comfy cotton sundress and Ruby immediately pulled it out of my laundry basket and was trying to eat it just now. She's like, I'm done waiting for you to be finished, Mom. So I'll give my writing updates quickly. I hate this ghostwriting job, yo. I'm so hating it. I forgot how much I hated it last time. Because I always reach like the point of ultimate hating it when I realize I don't want to write at all anymore. And I'm like, oh no, I'm hitting the point where writing and all becomes work. And I'm like, I don't even want to work on my own stuff if I had the opportunity to. So I'm going to finish this book up for him and then for my client and then be like, yep, listen, I can't do it. I overestimated myself and and I underestimated the time that it was going to take, the time and effort, and I'm now getting grossly underpaid. So I'm not going to be doing it anymore, which is not at all uncommon for like ghost written series to be written by multiple people. And that's why, because ghostwriting sucks.
Yeah.
So I have 3,500 more words to write today, 5,000 words to write tomorrow, and like 3,000 to 5,000 more words to write on Friday. And then I just have to edit it and I'm done. And I can't wait. I can't wait to be done with this book. I'm so close. And then I'm just going to have to take a break from writing anything for a little while. And then
get the love back.
Yeah, I get the love back. And then I will finally get to write my own stuff again. And hopefully this will be a lesson learned for the next few years for myself before I go, oh yeah, I can ghostwrite a series again. I didn't hate it that much
last time. It's a skill set I have.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's where I'm at. Hating it. So I can't wait to be done. I'm close to being done. By the end of this week, I'll be done. So I'm just living for that moment at this point.
To be free.
Yeah, to be free again. Anyways, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
Nope.
All right. Well, if you guys like this podcast, per usual, I'm going to ask that you do us the enormous, amazing blessing of going below and giving us 5 stars. I know it's a Herculean effort on your part, but it would be wonderful if you would give us 5 stars, tell the world how much you love us. And if you don't love us, pretend that you do. And don't forget to share the pod with your friends, because that is the best way to grow a podcast and a writing group. Ruby, my dog, wants you to. She's up in my lap. Just the green screen won't recognize her, but she's literally here right now saying, come on guys, join the writing group. So invite your friends and also join our Discord. We have a writing group on Discord. The link is below in the episode description, so you guys can tell us what you're working on. You can tell us about your really annoying and interrupting pets. Whatever you guys want to chat about, we will be there. Or you guys can also message us on social media. We are on Instagram and TikTok. I highly recommend that if you're a writer, you follow both pages. We're the Scripturient Society. And if you guys want to send us a longer message, you can email us at contact@storysirenstudio.com. You can also go to that website and look at our merch if you guys want to support us. So I think that's everything we've got for you guys, but thank you for showing up as always. And until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.